Alright, I thought I'd give a quick update here. I haven't been doing a whole lot of game stuff directly, as you can tell from the imports here in the interface stuff file. So OS, subprocess, XML stuff, a whole lot of working with files and folders, and getting the project structure set up. All the directories and files that are needed to work with, getting those set up. Quite a bit of it, but the framework to make it easier to work with. That way I don't have to keep creating folders and thinking about how to organize stuff. I'd actually already thought that through before, which is the point. I can't remember if I've said it in this playlist yet or not, but remember, coding is just the tedious, busy work at the end. Programming is all about the thinking and putting the ideas together, and then typing it up is just that last little, the busy work after you know what you want to do. So set up all the folders and stuff, work with a project, make that a little easier. And I very quickly gave up on the TK interface package and switched over to wxPython. It will pull a native looking window out of every operating system. Looks really good. They have excellent documentation too, which might as well point at this real quick. When you're working on stuff, make sure you're using the official documentation. So like the WX documentation here. If I go in here, they have excellent documentation, kind of goes through all of their stuff. A very, very long list of things to put in GUIs. Where's something? Combo box that will have it. And most of the pages are filled out very nicely like this. Nice description. The ready to go styles. And that list is continuing to grow, so that's one reason to make sure you check the API. If you're looking at tutorials that are 3 or 4 years old, you're behind what is actually going on in this library. They're constantly updating them and stuff. A list of events that are available from all the widgets on the GUI, some pictures, summaries, and then down to descriptions, and they give pretty thorough descriptions of what everything needs to be. Very excellent documentation, but make sure you're using the actual documentation. Right? When you're first getting started into a new library, yeah, examples are great. Pull something up on YouTube and kind of get an idea of how it goes together, but at the same time, make sure you look back at the official reference, right? So like the Panda 3D reference. And you'll also notice that these all seem to follow kind of the same format. So we have a search feature and navigation over here, and then the main content over on this side. Panda 3D is set up the same way. The search feature, some of the things we've used, so like there's the direct actor, and some places Panda 3D's API is a little bit lacking, so you kind of have to go through and figure out what they were doing. You'll see inheritance diagrams everywhere, and something in that inheritance diagram will be well documented. But most of the important functions are kind of spelled out in Panda 3D. Same thing for Pygame. We have these different things. So if we go to display, so I'm in Pygame/reference to get to this one. And kind of the same thing. We get a summary of what it does, then descriptions of all the methods, and yeah, thorough descriptions of how to use it, not just examples to copy from. So make sure you look from that at that. Although yes, examples are useful for getting started, but whenever you follow an example, make sure you come back over and check the API, and that way you learn how to read the particular API for that library you're working with. And yeah, just keep up on those. So obviously the things like programs get very big very quickly, so create a new one and do small tests along the way and then move them in. But I got this interface started. Doesn't do much yet. Mostly some file writing, setting up the projects. So if I go ahead and run that, should just take a second for the IDE to get it going. There we go. And yeah, so it pulls the native window from the operating system. So whichever operating system you're on, it looks like that. So not much going on yet. got the directory structure. I did do a new and open project basically. So if I create a new project, I'll call it example project, a 2D one. We're in the delete folder. That'll work. Puts all that together. Why does everything seem to have frozen up? Oh, I'll just go over here. So an example, see, it creates several folders. Each one has a text file, a brief description of the folder, and I decided to go with an XML sort of manifest on there. I'll have to refresh that folder here. Okay, now there's stuff in the delete folder. Yeah, so if I expand that in assets, there's just a quick description of what to use in the folders. And I decided to go with an XML style manifest. They're really easy to parse. Setting up the writer was the hardest part. But I got that all set up to load in everything. So as different values are, as different resources are brought into the project, they'll be loaded into the XML, and then we can use that to open it. And the run button will open it. But currently the game writer is still in that initial state. I think what we did in the first or second video in the playlist. So there's nothing in the game, but the run button does start it. Oh, and if I refresh this, you'll see it put that example file in there and updated the manifest. So now it shows this. So it basically writes the game whenever that's called. So kind of a start. I'm going to open two things. That way I can create another one. I'll call it another. Make this one a 3D game, and only the numbers 2 or 3 can be entered in this box. To kind of force that, I'll save it in this folder. Give it a quick run. And once again, it does the game writer object, which is still in the state it was after the first or second video in this playlist. I have to refresh this. Oh, and another reason for using the XML manifest is I can take an XML tree and put that directly in a view here. So that way I'm looking at just the folders for the project instead of everything. But basically just the framework for the project. And can open one up. So we just ran the 3D game. So if we go open project, and I think this was the 2D one, and notice that all I can see, even though there's other files there, it's limited to only looking at the manifest. So the manifest is what I'm going to use to open the project. Open that up, and when I hit run, it should be a 2D game pop-up. Yeah, so back to that Pygame example. So not much, a whole lot of file writing, but the basic structure makes it a lot easier to work with. And yeah, then the main content here barely touched. Just put in a text editor and started throwing some things together for an inspector. I have an idea for a graphical way to set up a graphical drag and drop or drag thing. So like an image and then drag over to set up all the collisions. So I wanted to make sure there was lots of space on the inspector, and then, well, still a whole lot of tabs to come here. I haven't touched much in the main part. So mostly so far, just a lot of file writing and creating folders and getting all the framework for the project set up, because that's the part that can be tedious, busy work. But if all the folders you need are set up, and then importing things and running all the files, everything's all linked together, that can save a whole lot of time in the long run. So I've been working on that, and we'll be back to some game stuff very soon. Just thought I'd give a quick update. See you in the next video.